there is some hope going into 2026. When I think about you, I would love to know, like, what is the priority? What is the most important thing to Kirk Cousins at this point in your career?
Just have a joy about what you do, and certainly winning is a big part of that. It's no fun to lose, but who you do it with is a big deal, and so the people you're around every day matters. And I think if you feel like you're working with great people and you have a great chance to go win, I think that those two things really supersede anything else.
Is that Atlanta?
Well, I think time will tell. You know, it certainly can be, and we'll see kind of where it goes.
You know what I'd love to see?
What's that?
I would like to see a little you and Kevin Stefanski.
Every NFL offseason produces a few surprising storylines, but few are as strange as watching a longtime franchise quarterback suddenly become one of the most debated players in the league. That's exactly what's happening with Kirk Cousins. For years, Cousins has been one of the most stable starting quarterbacks in the NFL. He's not the flashiest player. He doesn't dominate headlines the way younger stars do, but season after season, he has delivered consistent production, accurate passing, and leadership for the Minnesota Vikings. And yet, despite all of that stability, his future suddenly feels uncertain.
It's all these names that they're bringing it to is bridge. I'm like, all right, for what though? That's what I'm trying to figure out with the Kirk Cousins.
I don't see Kirk Cousins in Pittsburgh or see him as a landing spot. I think the only reason this is being talked about is Aaron Rodgers hasn't made a decision on coming back yet or not.
Okay.
And they're still, or he's still deciding, you know, what he's going to do. And once that decision is made one way or the other, then I think the chances of him being here are higher, but I still don't see it happening because of the teams that, you know, are out there right now. I believe the Raiders don't have nobody. I believe Minnesota don't have anyone, well, as a for sure one. We'll get into that later. But for me, it's not something I think we'll be able to even offer the money for when it comes down to it.
Across the league, teams are quietly evaluating the same question. Could Kirk Cousins become available? That possibility alone has turned him into one of the most intriguing names of the offseason, because Cousins represents something rare in today's NFL quarterback market: experience without chaos. He's a veteran who understands complex offenses, reads defenses quickly, and rarely makes reckless decisions with the football. For teams that believe they are close to contention but lack consistent quarterback play, a player like Cousins can look extremely appealing. At the same time, the situation isn't simple. Age, injuries, salary cap concerns, and long-term roster planning have all created uncertainty around his role moving forward. And in a league where teams constantly search for younger quarterbacks, veterans often find themselves in unpredictable situations. So the NFL now faces a fascinating possibility: a proven starting quarterback, one who has led winning teams for years, might suddenly be looking for a new home. And if that happens, several franchises could start making calls immediately.
Getting back together.
Get the band back together.
You tell me. What are your thoughts on that?
We'll see where it goes. I think that's the fact. It's just there's so many unknowns, and at this point, there's probably more up in the air, you know, than there will be at any other time during this offseason.
I have a knack for making these things, willing things into existence. You can call it prayer. You can call it when's the last time you talked to Kevin? You sent him a text?
Yeah, I probably texted with him this offseason at some point. You know, and it could have been about an inside joke from something from 6-7 years ago. But honestly, I've been with so many coaches and so many staffs that there'll be any number of guys I'll text just randomly about something.
To understand why Kirk Cousins has become such a major offseason storyline, you have to start with the contract. For years, Cousins built a reputation for negotiating some of the most unique deals in the NFL. When he joined the Minnesota Vikings, he signed a fully guaranteed contract, something extremely rare for quarterbacks at the time. At first, the move looked bold but manageable. Cousins performed well, the offense remained productive, and the Vikings stayed competitive in the NFC. But as the seasons passed, the financial implications of that contract became harder to ignore. Quarterback salaries across the NFL kept rising.
They say the Steelers are among the people for Kirk Cousins as a landing spot. What do you think of that assumption or that belief?
I mean, Debo, I don't know. Kirk Cousins is what it is. What it is. He is what it is. He's going to be a manageable quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Not going to be too good, not going to be too bad. But I don't know. What's the money look like? What's the money look like? And I'm not too entertained, honestly. I love Kirk Cousins, great dude, but it's just still, like we said, middle of the pack. Is he going to be competing versus Will, or is he going to be like, if Will doesn't end up panning out at all, we just know we got Kirk to be able to maintain the ship until next season. We got to draft a quarterback, or we definitely have to go get one, because I know he's not the quarterback for the future. Like, if we just bring in Kirk Cousins, it's bridge.
Younger stars began signing massive deals, pushing the market higher every year. As a result, teams became more cautious about committing huge portions of their salary cap to veteran quarterbacks. For Minnesota, that created a difficult balancing act. On one hand, Cousins was still producing solid numbers. His accuracy, decision-making, and leadership kept the offense competitive. On the other hand, building a championship roster requires financial flexibility. And that's where things started to get complicated. Every dollar spent on a veteran quarterback is a dollar that can't be used to strengthen other areas of the roster: offensive line, defensive depth, or playmaking weapons. NFL front offices constantly ask a difficult question when evaluating veteran quarterbacks. Is this player good enough to justify building the entire roster around his contract? For some teams, the answer is obvious. For others, the decision becomes much harder.
Believe it or not, the Steelers should sign Kirk Cousins, who's now available, instead of waiting and seeing on Aaron Rodgers.
The Steelers should play with whatever quarterback makes them the worst. If that's Will Howard, go out there and play with Will Howard. If that's Kirk Cousins, go out there and play with Kirk Cousins. What you don't want to do is go get Aaron Rodgers and win 8, 9, 10 games again, right? At some point, they got to get out of quarterback purgatory. They can't figure it out. You just can't figure it out. And along with Mike Tomlin and all we said that was great about him never having a losing season, you also never got an opportunity to draft high enough to go get another Ben Roethlisberger. You never had a chance to be in a position where you could put a package of picks together and move high enough to where you get a guy that could be that next franchise starter.
And that uncertainty is exactly what has placed Cousins in the center of the offseason conversation. Because once a team begins asking those questions, the possibility of change is never far behind. For most of his career, Kirk Cousins built his reputation on one rare quality: durability. In a league where injuries constantly reshape seasons, Cousins was known as one of the most reliable quarterbacks in football. Year after year, he stayed healthy, started games, and delivered steady production for the Minnesota offense. That reliability became a huge part of his value. Teams didn't just view Cousins as a productive quarterback, they saw him as a dependable one, someone who could lead an offense without the constant fear of missing games. But injuries change everything in the NFL. When a veteran quarterback suffers a significant injury, the entire conversation shifts. Suddenly, teams aren't just evaluating performance anymore, they're evaluating recovery timelines, long-term durability, and how age might affect the healing process. For Cousins, that shift created uncertainty.
Down the studio, I really like the question. Dan Graziano, who is the highest earning quarterback in NFL history with 0 playoff wins?
Neek has an objection. He doesn't like this question because it insinuates what? That somebody made too much money?
Overpaid.
I
don't appreciate that.
We don't talk about that.
He
on
won't
this
use
show.
the word overpaid.
No.
More than barely compensated.
Yeah, because I mean, you could lose a playoff game for any number of reasons. That have nothing to do with you and how much money you make. Everybody's going to say Kirk Cousins, but I was at the game he won, the playoff game in New Orleans. So obviously I know it's not him. My guess is Derek Carr. Is it Derek Carr?
That's right. That is unbelievable. You are incredibly good at this.
Way to go, Derek.
I have the top 5.
Quarterbacks can absolutely return from injuries and perform at a high level. In fact, many veterans have done exactly that. But front offices still have to weigh the risk carefully, especially when large contracts are involved. This is where the league becomes cautious. Teams considering a veteran quarterback must ask difficult questions. Will the player return to his previous level of performance? Will mobility or arm strength decline? And perhaps most importantly, will the quarterback remain healthy long enough to justify the investment? Those questions don't necessarily mean Cousins' career is declining, but they do introduce doubt. And in the NFL, even a small amount of doubt can completely reshape the market for a quarterback. Despite the uncertainty surrounding his future, Kirk Cousins remains extremely attractive to several teams across the NFL. The reason is simple: reliable starting quarterbacks are incredibly difficult to find.
We're doing the right moves right now. Don't stress. I hear you though. Aaron Rodgers is still the reason kind of why this is even in the air. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not with the bringing Kirk Cousins in, but I am if it's for the right price and it's going to be more backup.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way there. So the Steelers, they say our guy Jalen is now grossly underpaid, considered what the market is right now. You have the running back from Seattle. He went to the Chiefs. Kenneth Walker, he signed a deal that was almost $15 million a year. And I guess when you look at the reference of Warren compared to his 50 yards less, Walker had a total in the regular season, and then Warren had a total of 50 yards less than Walker in the regular season. And with that being said, brother, do you
Every season, multiple franchises enter the offseason searching desperately for stability at the position. Some teams have young quarterbacks who are still developing, others have veterans who failed to deliver consistent results. And then there are teams that believe they are only one piece away from serious playoff contention. For those teams, Cousins represents a very specific type of solution. He may not be the most exciting quarterback in the league, but he is one of the most predictable. Offensive coordinators know exactly what they're getting: accurate passing, strong preparation, and a quarterback capable of executing a structured offense. That kind of reliability has value, especially for teams with strong defenses or talented offensive weapons that simply need competent quarterback play to compete. Instead of gambling on an unproven rookie or rebuilding the offense from scratch, some franchises might view Cousins as the safer option. In the right situation, a veteran quarterback can stabilize an entire roster. That's why Cousins' uncertain future has quietly drawn attention across the league. Because if he truly becomes available, several teams could see an opportunity to upgrade their offense overnight. And in the NFL, opportunities like that rarely stay quiet for long.
When I was a young player, I didn't have.
Your priority is winning, the people you work with, it sounds like culture is important to you. Where in that do you slot in being a starting quarterback, which we all know you are and should be?
Well, yeah, I think I want to play, so I don't know if you want to call it a starter or whatever you want to call it, but yeah, the chance to get out there on the field and play and compete and lead is what I think we all want. But, we'll kind of see where everything is when the dust settles.
If Kirk Cousins truly becomes available, the next question becomes obvious: which teams would actually pursue him? Several franchises across the NFL currently face uncertainty at the quarterback position, and veteran stability is often attractive for teams trying to compete immediately. One team frequently mentioned in discussions is the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons have built a roster filled with offensive talent and a strong running game, but quarterback consistency has been a recurring issue. A veteran like Cousins could bring immediate structure to the offense and allow the team's playmakers to operate more efficiently. Another possible destination could be the New York Jets. The Jets have repeatedly struggled to find stable quarterback play, and their defense is already strong enough to compete with playoff teams. For a roster built to win now, a reliable veteran quarterback could be extremely valuable. There is also speculation about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh has historically favored experienced quarterbacks who can manage games effectively and protect the football. Cousins' disciplined playing style could fit well within that philosophy. Of course, rumors and reality are often different in the NFL. But if Cousins becomes available, several teams will likely at least explore the possibility, because finding a proven quarterback is one of the hardest challenges in professional football. While Kirk Cousins offers experience and reliability, teams considering him must also evaluate several risks. The first factor is age. Quarterbacks can certainly play into their late 30s, but performance often becomes less predictable as players get older. Teams must consider whether Cousins can maintain his current level of play over the next several seasons. The second concern is recovery risk. Even though Cousins has historically been durable, returning from a significant injury always introduces uncertainty. Teams will carefully study medical evaluations and recovery progress before committing to a major contract. Financial risk is another important factor. Veteran quarterbacks typically command large salaries, and committing significant cap space to one player can limit a team's ability to strengthen other areas of the roster: offensive line, defensive depth, or playmaking weapons. NFL front offices constantly ask a difficult question when evaluating veteran quarterbacks. Is this player good enough to justify building the entire roster around his contract? For some teams, the answer is obvious. For others, the decision becomes much harder. And that uncertainty is exactly what has placed Cousins in the center of the offseason conversation. Because once a team begins asking those questions, the possibility of change is never far behind. As the offseason continues, the future of Kirk Cousins remains one of the most intriguing questions in the league. Several possible outcomes exist. The first possibility is that Cousins remains with the Minnesota Vikings. If the organization believes he can return to full strength and continue leading the offense effectively, keeping their veteran quarterback might still be the safest option. Another scenario involves a trade. If the Vikings decide to pursue a younger quarterback or restructure their roster for the future, they could explore moving Cousins to a team searching for immediate quarterback help. In that situation, the market could quickly become competitive.
There is also the possibility that Cousins becomes a short-term solution for a contender. Teams that believe they're close to a championship might view him as the steady veteran who can guide a talented roster through the playoffs. Whatever happens, the decision will not only affect Cousins' career, it could reshape the quarterback landscape across multiple teams. Because in the NFL, when a proven starting quarterback suddenly becomes available, the entire league starts paying attention.